What is up, guys? I'm your friendly neighborhood web war fanatic, and I've got another really quick news update video for you guys. Yeah, Synthezoid Smackdown here has been pushed back, and we have a release date now for December 5th, 2025. If you guys do not know, this expansion has been delayed. I have a video I released last week talking about that delay, and then so originally on the website it says that it would release on November 21st, 2025, and we got that delay announcement, and it's been updated now on the Asmodee website where you guys can purchase Synthezoid Smackdown, and it's been pushed back to December 5th, 2025. So you guys are wondering, I think that's going to be the release date here. So yeah, just really quick, just wanted to share that with you guys that that has been updated. And I also want to share a few thoughts I had on the She-Hulk scenario specifically, now that we've actually like played Civil War, because we got the teaser for this article here for the scenario pack, before Civil War was released. So now that I've had a chance to play it, I do want to give just a few quick thoughts here on She-Hulk. And yeah, I think like a lot of people expected, She-Hulk is going to be super duper tough. I think that she's going to actually be more difficult than Captain America and Iron Man. Those two are, I think, the more difficult scenarios in the Civil War expansion. I think they're actually like A tier level villains, like actually quite difficult. Like definitely more difficult than like Mutagen Formula and Claw, which I have more like in the B tier. Let's look at this card here again. Superhuman strength attached to She-Hulk. As a force interrupt whenever she attacks, this attack gains overkill. Then you discard this card after the attack, and the boost effect here is to review this card. So if you get this as a boost, it comes out, she gets that +2 attack, so she'll have 4 attack, but the force interrupt will not trigger because the time and conditioning for this is whenever She-Hulk attacks as an interrupt. So that actually happens whenever she initiates the attack. So if you review this card as a boost, that attack that the boost is for will not have overkill, but it will have the +2 attack. It's going to be the next attack whenever she initiates it. If she already has a superhuman strength attached to her, then that attack will gain overkill. And then her setup here is to find a copy of the superhuman strength and attach it to She-Hulk. So she starts off the scenario, with this attachment here, which is very, very nasty. And one cool thing that we can really compare this card to is Captain America, because he has the exact same card, which is kind of disappointing here that he has the exact same card here but with like unchanged text. I feel like they should have kept this like just for She-Hulk to have this, and maybe something different for Captain America, because I feel like this is more thematic here for She-Hulk to discard it and then have the attack gain overkill. But yeah, for Captain America here, we played against this a lot. Super Soldier Serum, it's an attachment here with +2 attack for Captain America. And then you attach to him, the boost is the exact same thing as a superhuman strength here that She-Hulk has, where you review the card, you get it as a boost effect. And then Force Interrupt, whenever Captain America attacks, this attack gains overkill. At the end of the attack, discard this card. So literally the exact same text here, replacing the Captain America word here with the She-Hulk word. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely Captain America's worst card. Every single time I'm playing PvP here, this is the card that I grab and deal to my opponent if I'm able to look through an encounter deck and find a card for them. This card is pretty rough. This can definitely end games if your opponent is trying to rush you down, in a PvP setting. So yeah, I definitely really like this for She-Hulk, probably more than I like it for Captain America. Just because I feel like it's more thematic, right? I don't know if the Super Soldier Serum like will ever get discarded after Captain America uses it, right? It's kind of like he's putting the serum in, and then after he attacks, like, it's a stronger attack with overkill, but then you lose the serum. I feel like that's less thematic here, but it's very thematic here for She-Hulk with the superhuman strength, just having that like boosted attack, like her raging, for like a second right there. So yeah, and another thing here with She-Hulk is that I've been looking at her cards a little bit more, and her 1-2 punch. This card is super rough, and I think it's even worse in PvP because when reviewed in Alter Ego, She-Hulk schemes. When reviewed in hero form, She-Hulk attacks you. So just getting activation is already pretty bad, but you also give her a tough status card. Like, especially in PvP, guys, when you're trying to like gun down, the leader, and you're racing against your opponents, if they can activate on you, which kind of sets you back a little bit, right? If you have to like lose an ally to block or like take some damage, on your hit points, or you have to like add some threat in the main scheme, so you have to thwart that out, right? But then she also gets a tough status card. That is really, really annoying. So I think that this is going to be a very powerful card for her, especially in PvP. You also want to deal this card to your opponent, right? So it's going to be a tough decision making like opportunity here. If you want to do this to your opponent, if She-Hulk is your leader and you get to select a card to give to your opponent, do you want to give them this, the 1-2 punch? or do you want to give them a superhuman strength, right? I think it depends on the situation. There's more like choices of like what you want to deal. And then I also really want to mention the Gamma Slam here. So this treachery right here, when reviewed, discard the highest cost ally or support you control. Then place threat on the main scheme equal to that card's cost. If no threat is placed on the main scheme this way, this card gains surge. So like, it's a caught off guard, but worse. And another way that I've been looking at this card is like it's basically a like weak advance, right? Because discard the highest cost ally or support control. A lot of allies are going to be like 3 costs, like Nick Fury is 4 costs. A lot of supports that you'll have will be like the Helicarrier, like 3 costs, Queen Carrier 3 costs, right? And you have the Avengers Mansion play, that's going to be 4 costs. So like this is really, really rough. And the fact that it searches both ally and support, the way that the Grim rule works in Marvel Champions is if you have like a 2 cost ally, but you have a 3 cost support, you have to pick that support because it says to discard the highest cost ally or support you control. So searching through your ally or your support, and whatever is higher cost, you discard that one. And if it's like 3 or 4, which most likely it will be, you add that threat on the main scheme, essentially having like She-Hulk's scheme, right? Because if She-Hulk here, on her stage 1, if you're doing like standard mode, she has one scheme. If she gets an advance, she'll scheme with this base of 1, and if she gets like a boost of 2, she adds 3 threat on the main. So it's kind of like just getting a regular scheme activation, right? You can also think of this as like, if you're playing on expert and then like she maybe has like 2 or 3 scheme, and if she gets like a boost of 0, I mean, that's still a scheme activation, and it just adds threat to the main scheme that you can't really control or like mitigate. So like this is like essentially an advance, right? Especially if you're planning out your main scheme to have like 1 or 2 threat from popping, and you're like, okay, I should be good even if She-Hulk schemes, like if I flip down to Artigo. If you review this as your encounter card, she's going to add additional threat on top of that, which is really, really difficult to deal with. So far, all of the She-Hulk cards that we've seen are like really annoying, right? Gamma Slam, very difficult to deal with. The 1-2 punch, very difficult to deal with. And then we also have the Superhuman Strength, which for Captain America is usually the card that I think is the most difficult to deal with because it's the one that I usually give to my opponent if I'm playing in PvP, and I have the Captain America as my leader who's like, my teammate. So that is pretty tough here. So her legal practice side scheme is actually not as bad. One thing that we've learned about these leaders with how their main schemes work is that with the setup, you usually grab that side scheme, that corresponding side scheme with the leader, and you put it into play when the game begins here. So I think Captain America has the worst one. Where is his side scheme? We might have to scroll down a little bit. I'm not sure if it's going to be on Hall of Heroes. Oh man, it's not on Hall of Heroes. Okay, guys, I'm going to put it up like on the screen so you guys can see Captain America's leader side scheme. But basically, it's pretty difficult because it has an amplify icon, which is not good because he's going to get, additional boosts for all of his boost cards, right? But also, after you defeat that side scheme, the one defeat is Captain America activates against you. So you don't want to scheme or attack, especially early on when you want to deal with that side scheme. So She-Hulk here, it's not as bad because it's just an acceleration here, but it can be really annoying throughout the course of the game. It really stack on a lot more threat than you would want. So threat cannot be removed from the scheme by heroes or allies. So this comes in with, 3 threat right here. And you start off the game alter ego, and this will be, in play with those main schemes. And as an alter ego response, after you change form, exhaust your identity to remove 3 threat from the scheme. If you guys know me, you guys know I hate, villain cards and counter cards that have a response that's tied to something like with your basic exhaust, right? So like there's cards where like you can discard like attachment by spending XYZ resources. Those are fine. But the ones like Magneto's helmet or Magneto's armor, where it says like you have to make a basic attack and then still spend those 3 resources, are really difficult because you want to use your basic activation for something else, but also you get exhausted with like an exhaustion, you aren't able to do it that turn. So like you can't do this on turn 1 most of the time because you start off in alter ego, whenever the game begins, you flip up to hero form, you have to flip back down and then be right up like before you flip, and as a response, whenever you're changing down to your alter ego form, you use that alter ego response and then exhaust your identity to remove 3 threat from this game. So this card is like actually quite difficult to deal with, but I mean it's not that bad because having the acceleration is the easiest icon to deal with. But like if you leave this in play for a very long time, it could accumulate and add like 5, 10, 15, 20 threat throughout the course of the game, which will make it a huge nuisance. So I can definitely see this card being very difficult and just being like this nuisance that you're like, okay, do I want to do like all this to deal with it, which is like quite a lot because you have to flip down to alter ego, and usually when you're flipping down to alter ego, you want to do other stuff to mitigate the threat and mitigate the villain scheming, right? So Yeah, I mean, this card at face value, I think it's not as bad if you can get rid of it, like, quite soon. But if you let this stay in play for a very long time, which is like kind of what I think, I would be tempted to do, especially in a rush game where you're like doing PvP, this can be very difficult. And her other card here, the Focus Rage, is definitely like her easiest to deal with card, right? She has gained Stalwart, +1 scheme. After she schemes, you discard the card. It's a little bit annoying because, like, if you're trying to stun or confuse her, then like you have to basically let her scheme to get rid of it, right? You can't use like a confuser or anything like that. So, at the same time, it can be actually very, very annoying. It's just for me personally, I don't really play with like stun lock, confuse lock builds. So I think for me, it's not going to be as much of a nuisance. So I think I'm like valuing it less. But I think definitely for someone that really likes to do like confuses and stuns, this is quite annoying to deal with because you have to actually let She-Hulk scheme and put threat, on the main scheme to get rid of this card. You can't discard with like a hero response or a hero action. You have to actually let her do it herself. So I mean, now that I'm looking at it, I feel like it's even more annoying than I initially thought. But yeah, I mean, She-Hulk's cards, guys, she has really rough cards. I am excited to use her as my leader in PvP and take down other players because I think that she's going to be the most difficult leader here, more difficult than Iron Man and Captain America. Just from what we've seen and now that we played PvP, we kind of like have an idea, and even in the co-op version of game, just an idea of how the leaders work. So yeah, I'm very much anticipating She-Hulk here. I will talk about Vision a little bit as well, just in case anyone is interested, but I don't really have too much to add on him. I think that he is going to be one of the easier villains, probably similar to like Spider-Woman, who I think is the easiest villain, in that Civil War expansion. So Spider-Woman right here, I think she is the easiest one. Vision kind of looks like around her level. Like a lot of his cards will change his forms and flip it, and based on which form that he is in, it's pretty unique and pretty interesting because he'll do different effects based on that. But like all the effects aren't that bad. Like it's not too terrible, right? He'll have +1 scheme. On the flip side, on his dense form, he'll have +1 attack. So like whichever form you're in, I mean it's kind of fine. And he has a force response here, which kind of adds more upkeep. After resolving step 1 of villain phase, so after you add that threat on the main scheme, you flip Vision's mass form attachment. So just constantly like doing that every single turn. And you have to remember, you guys know I often forget stuff like that, so hopefully I can try to remember the upkeep here with Vision. But yeah, I mean, I think he looks pretty chill. But yeah, She-Hulk is definitely going to be the one that I'm excited to face. Even in a PvP, use her as my leader in PvP, and also face her in the co-op version of the game. So yeah, I'm excited to take down She-Hulk here. So yeah, those are just a few thoughts I've been sitting on for this She-Hulk scenario. And I didn't really think it would be worth to like make a whole video, about this. But since we now have like an official release date for Synthezoid Smackdown being December 5th, I thought it'd be a good time to just share some of my thoughts on the She-Hulk and the Vision scenarios here. So yeah, just a short video here, guys. I hope you guys like this video, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.